Okay, so today I am going through some motors that came through the shop. I don't know when this guy came in. This is a 64 WB code, which is a 110 Power Glide. I don't know much about the engine. The customer brought it in as a trade-in, and so I just need to go through and do a compression test on it today. So that's my goal today. You'll notice that it doesn't have an oil filter housing on it, or oil filter adapter, no harmonic balancer. The end cover's on. This chain is so I could get it off the pile and get it on this metal basket. This is what I use sometimes to support an engine. I like these old metal baskets. They're a lot better than the plastic ones. This has just been inside the shed for a while. It's been covered up. Got the ports covered up. I probably robbed it one day for a top cover. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to make this thing spin, and I'm going to measure compression on it to see if it's worth doing something with, if it could be salvaged as is, or if it's just an engine that needs to be rebuilt. This particular motor is a setup for a Power Glide. So I have bought from a friend of mine, Mr. Rex Johnson, a way to test Power Glide setups without running a complete torque converter. So what he has done is he's actually cut a torque converter in half and saved the ring gear. And so I'm just bolt this onto a standard flex plate. And now I can actually spin this with the starter. I also, from Mr. Johnson, bought this tool here. And this is a way for me to attach part of a bell housing or part of a differential. And basically what this does is, this is pretty slick here. I really like this. This is going to give me the correct spacing, and it's also going to give me the correct spacing, and it's also going to give me the correct distance to make sure that when I put a starter on here that I'm not going to be shearing stuff off. So it gives me a good base. Let's see if I can get that tight. Sometimes you just got to stop and get stuff tight. Yeah, I got it tight. So that stays on there, and now I can just put my starter on there. I've got a ring gear, and I should be able to spin it, and we're going to do some compression tests. Okay, now that I've got that little plate on there, I don't have to have some kind of a differential here. So I can actually come in here and just tighten that guy up. Tighten that guy up, and now all I got to do is get my 12 volts here, and I can actually start spinning this engine. Okay, let me do a quick word of caution here. I'm not pressurizing this system. There's no oil pan on this engine. As far as I can tell, there's no oil in it. And of course there's no distributor in it, so the oil pump's not going to go. So I'm really kind of relying on there being some residual oil on all of these journals. So I'm not going to be cranking it and cranking it and cranking it for 10 or 15 minutes. All I want to do is rotate the engine about 4 times to get a compression reading on each cylinder. And so what I will do is I'm going to place a paper towel over these fins here, because it has been my finding that once an engine has been stacked upright, that is on the bell housing, that you can get some oil in one of these cylinders, and the last thing I want is oil squirting out of there and onto my ceiling, or worse yet, my eye. So next step is to get 12 volts to it, and we'll get our compression tester and see what we get for compression. Okay, tell you a little bit about what's going on here. I have 2 engine stands. One is one that I build engines on, and the other is this one right here. This is my test stand. rather than take the battery out and bring it over close to this engine, I just decided to wheel the engine stand here next to this starter. This is not something I do all the time, this running these engines semi-dry like this. So anyway, basically got everything hooked up, positive, positive, negative, negative, and then this is a starter switch right here, and then it does turn. If I hit the button, it will turn. So next step is for me to get the compression tester inserted into a plug hole and see what we start getting for readings. Okay, I have some paper towels over these spark plug holes, just that way if there's anything oil inside the cylinders, it's not squirting out at me. Also, the way this is set up here, it's gonna be loud. The ring gear doesn't line up 100% perfect on it because it's not really a torque converter anymore. So it's gonna be loud. So I put some ear protection on. I was taught to always protect your ears, always protect your hands. Anything you can do to protect yourself is a good idea. So let me just briefly tell you a little bit about my compression tester. I've had this thing for, I don't know, 30 years, long time. It's made in USA. Imagine that, a compression tester made in the United States. Even says so right there. So I bought this from a place called J.C. Whitney, I don't know, 30, 35 years ago. And it's been a good compression tester. It's been pretty accurate. And this will actually thread into spark plug hole, assuming that you've got good threads. And then I'm going to connect this guy right here. And then I want this to where I can see. And I'm going to go ahead and spin this number 6 cylinder and see what we get. Whoop. Didn't have it hooked up all the way. But the fact that it blew it apart, that's actually a pretty good sign. Okay, I'm getting 150 pounds. That's real good. It's got a pressure release. And then we're going to move over to the next one. Okay, we're going to give it some juice here and see what we get for compression on number 4. 155 pounds. I'm liking that so far. Okay, this is what I am getting. Get that hose out of the way. That's what I'm getting on all 3 cylinders on this side. About 150, 155, something like that, that range. Very, very good. The engine does not look like it's got much miles on it. It looks pretty fresh. It's not dirty in there. So I might have a pretty decent motor here.